Let me guess. One of the cool kids sent you this video. You were asking about Ace and you wanted to see what it was all about. I'm telling you, these kids nowadays are built different, and Ace is built for them. Ace is a mastermind group and social club for teenagers. And these kids nowadays, they are making excellence the new normal. My name is Jerome Bell. I'm the founder of Ace. And look, this is where it all started, y'all. Where's my money? Where is my money? I'm a software engineer and I work hard for my money, but I found out that they're creating it out of thin air. And I said, no way I'm going to work hard for something that's created out of thin air by Lord knows who. So I went down the rabbit hole, found out it was actually a bit worse than I originally thought. Have you heard of those $1,000 Trump accounts? Every baby born January 1st, 2025 or later, the government sets up a $1,000 education fund that they get when they're 18. Sounds like a good idea, except it's a really bad idea because it's a government controlled account. There's strings attached. And worst off, it's the start of a central bank digital currency or CBDC. That's when the government takes complete control over the banking system. That means they can freeze or drain your bank account at any time for any reason. Ever heard of stimulus checks? What happens when those are in government controlled accounts just the same? What happens when people have more money in these government controlled accounts rather than in their personal private bank account? A true nightmare scenario. The silver lining, though, is that there's $100 trillion total in America. That means your fair share is $300,000. There's enough for every man, woman, and child to have $300,000 apiece. Every man gets 300,000. Every woman gets 300,000. Every child gets 300,000. Your fair share. The problem, as we already know, is distribution. So here's what I propose. We could create a brand new currency, literally named USA. It's a digital currency, a cryptocurrency, and everybody gets 300,000 USA for free. No cost, no government, no corporation, just the people. USA is money for American people by American people. What's the catch, right? What's the catch? That's if we pay with USA. We could pay with euros, we could pay with pesos, we could pay with Bitcoin, but if we pay with USA, the fair market value will eventually rise to $1. So what we do is not what Bitcoin did. Back in 2008, 2009, somebody bought a pizza for 10,000 Bitcoin. Google the price of Bitcoin today. They didn't know what they had their hands on. They bought 10,000 Bitcoin for one pizza. Here's the point. Only pay 20 to 30 USA for a pizza, y'all. Let me say it again. Only pay 20 to 30 USA for pizza. Don't do what the Bitcoin people did, okay? So, there's a tipping point where as more and more people buy pizza with USA or whatever, the tipping point is that the fair market value will eventually rise to $1. And at that point, people will have $300,000 of buying power in the form of USA, which is probably going to be more than the amount of dollars they have in their bank account. So the question is, what do you want? $1,000 Trump account, strings attached, CBDC, or do you want $300,000 of buying power in the form of USA, like this trust fund baby right here? So what's the problem? Well, it's a bit naive, right? Because Uncle Sam, is he really going to let us do that? Right? Just give up power to the people? Let's be honest, the government has killed for far less. So there's a reason why so many people want a third party to end the lesser two evil system. 58% of Americans want a third party. A third party kicks the system back in the right direction. Okay. And so, like this gentleman here on the right, Larry Sharpe, running for New York governor as we speak, he is running on both the libertarian line and on the we the people line. And he is brilliantly intelligent, has practical policies, has a grassroots movement. That's awesome, but what I need to get my fair share of 300,000, I need an army of Larry Sharps. An army of Larry Sharps. That's where the youth's in. All right? Picture this. Third party, a brand new political party, literally named Third Party, that's exclusively operated and controlled by teenagers. 13 to 18, 19, you're out. Why teenagers? Well, we need that third party to kick the system in the right direction, right? So who better to lead that failsafe than those who are outside politics because they can't vote, but yet they still have influence on politics as young people. And so the focus is going to be on cryptocurrencies like USA, your fair share, 300,000, but also all of them, but artificial intelligence, AI. If we're not careful, AI can make or break the middle class. We're going to talk about that more in a bit. Look, third party is not based on ideology. We will only talk about the things we agree on. We will never talk about the things we disagree on. Let me put it another way. I owe you a beer, and we can have a conversation to discover what we already agree on. And then, more importantly, if you're up to it, we can connect and work together to implement and execute the things we already agree on. And then you owe me a beer. Then we can talk about the things we disagree on, and maybe we can at least understand each other, plain and simple. So, what's the platform? I'll give you one. How about ending the Hunger Games? Do, do you guys remember the Hunger Games? Having a bunch of teenagers fight to the death, right? Who set that system up? Was that what high school is? Putting them in a situation where only a few by design can win and most of them will lose? And nowadays, they're not even competing against each other in the Hunger Games. They're competing against AI in the Hunger Games. So, are the grown-ups going to end the games? Can the youth rely on that? Or do the youth need to take matters into their own hands, end the Hunger Games without the help of the adults? That means one thing: the kids are going to have to rule the school. See, right now, the way the system is, the school board is elected by the people. They hire the superintendent, who hires the administrators, and then they hire the teachers, the ones who actually work with the students. Here's the difference: third party is going to take over the entire school board. They're going to win the entire school board. Let me be abundantly clear. This means that the school board is going to be the puppets of third party. This isn't hush hush, behind closed doors, under the table. This is publicly advertised both now and forever. The school board is going to be the puppets of third party. And then the chain of command remains the same. This is how the kids are going to rule the school. You might be thinking, what about the voice of those tax paying voters, right? Well, plain and simple, the kids are going to have to foot the bill. They're going to have to find non tax dollars to pay for school. How about the tax income bounty? A cash reward bounty for anyone who can help find alternative non tax funding to pay for schools. For example, Evanston Township High School has a $113 million budget. This means there's a $1.13 million bounty on the table. Somebody says, hey, I know how to get $1 million of alternative non tax funding to help pay for school. Thank you. And then as a reward for that $1 million savings, we will give you 1% of that $1 million savings. 1% of a million is 10 grand. We cut them a check for 10 grand. The tax income bounty. A concrete example is a program that's been put on by the banks, and it helps businesses to be able to give donations directly to schools at no cost to the business. Let's look at the details.
Nonprofits are built to create change, but too often leaders struggle with limited resources, shrinking budgets, and scattered tools. What if the money that businesses already pay to banks could be redirected to nonprofits without costing those businesses a single dollar more? That's exactly what Share360 makes possible. So what is Share360? It's a platform created by Butch Chalea, inspired by his values, especially paying forward kindness, and backed by his expertise in business systems and funding. He discovered a simple, seamless way for businesses to support nonprofits by turning everyday transactions into opportunities for giving, all within a compliant and efficient structure. In essence, Share360 makes donating effortless and integrated. Share360 bridges the gap between commerce and community impact. We are one of the few platforms in the US to receive IRS approval to regulate this program, supporting IRS-recognized charities and 501c3 nonprofits. Our exclusive premier underwriting banking partners make it possible to build sustainable income streams. Here's how it works. When a customer makes a purchase, the standard merchant fees that businesses are already paying on every transaction are redirected from the banks to the nonprofit of that business's choice. No new budgets, no added costs, no fundraising overhead, just automatic, reliable, and sustainable support. With Share360, businesses support nonprofits effortlessly. Join the growing network of organizations already transforming their impact with Share360. Because when nonprofits thrive, communities rise. Thanks for watching. We're glad you're here. Welcome to Share360. Connect with your Share360 ambassador today to get started.
And folks, I'm an ambassador for the Share360 program. If any of the students help businesses give donations to their school, I will give them 50% of my commission. As an ambassador, I have the power to do that. Conservatively, we can expect 300 students to be chasing after that $1.13 million bounty. Here's why. There's about 3,000 students at Evanston High School. Conservatively, we can expect half of them to participate. Why? Because the idea of the kids ruling the school just sounds cool. And then we can conservatively expect 80-20 rule. 20% of them will be active participants. That's 300 active participants. Folks, can you imagine what 300 intelligent, energetic, and unified young people can do? Don't you think that the odds are in their favor to get that $1.13 million bounty? I do. So, hey, we're also more than halfway there for ending property tax. See, here in Evanston, 67% of property tax goes to the schools. So when we can take that off the table, we're more than halfway there of getting rid of property tax. And in my humble opinion, this is kind of a universal liberty issue. I really don't see this as a left or right issue. I don't think most people like the idea of having to pay tax just to exist. And for these young people, I really don't think that they want to spend the rest of their lives paying a tax just to exist. So I think this can be a unifying point as well, another benefit bringing to the table. I know what you're thinking. What about this? What about that? You didn't mention this. Well, I don't have all the answers. The young people don't have all the answers, but collectively as a community, I bet we can find them. What if we had a cash reward bounty to answer that question that just popped into your head? The answer bounty. And you can add questions to this bounty anonymously. Some parents I've found are even afraid to ask certain questions about the school system. Well, with encryption technology, you can submit your questions anonymously to the bounty. You can even fund a question anonymously. I want to put $10 to answer that, get that question answered. $20, 10 USA, 20 USA to get that question answered, right? You can fund it anonymously with encryption technology. People can supply all of their various answers anonymously with that encryption technology. And then we vote. We can vote anonymously with encryption technology, and whoever gets the most votes, they get the reward. They get the bounty, right? And they can even receive the reward anonymously through encryption technology. They might donate that anonymously to any nonprofit. They might even donate it to the school itself. They just wanted the answer. But at the end of the day, we can come together and find a solution. You all, these kids nowadays are built different. ACE is built for them. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn a little bit more about this project, and we will see you at the ballot box.